hear it?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
I still don't see anything. I see he.
Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Oh.
One came in and 2 aid renders overnight.
For some reason, I thought we were
Why
at
did you just tell me
152.
this now?
I just found out. Why? Okay, we're gonna have to pivot audio-wise, guys, because and we're gonna go up. All right, guys, let me, actually, I'm gonna be nice to everybody. All right, everybody, y'all talk loud.
Talking loud. Does it work?
I don't know. Can you guys hear them now? Actually, I'm gonna be nice to everybody.
What happened?
All right,
Oh, okay, so you're moving the table.
we're gonna do this before we're
All right,
live
everybody,
next
y'all talk
time,
loud.
Talking loud.
and then we're gonna edit all this shit out of the video
Yes.
after the live stream turns into a video. Because the first 30 seconds is what gets people to watch once it turns into a video. So we're gonna reset right here. Good morning, everyone. My name is TJ Morris, founder of RefugeMedical.com. I'm joined by,
Heath.
not the founder,
Not
but he's
the
been
founder.
here a long time.
But I'm just here.
Yeah, you're in our training and media
Yeah.
departments and doing a little kit dev as well right now.
I am.
Secret sauce.
Oh, I'm also doing some kit dev, but more on that later, like weeks, months from now.
Nice.
So Life 51 and 2 aid render stories came in the email.
151. 151.
151 is what I said. It's phenomenal. You want to read
Yes.
151?
Yes, I do. One momento, because the internet is the internet. Silence. Somebody say something. I'm waiting for Google to load. Here we go. Okie dokie. Well, our internet is being fantastical. Okay. Okay, so I have 3 in the box. This is the first one. Dear Bear, I never thought I would be writing this to you. I started listening to you during COVID and gained much insight into prepping from you. I monthly support both Caleb House and Grindstone. This past Sunday, I cut my lower leg with a chainsaw. I immediately applied a cat tourniquet to my leg, and when my wife and neighbor arrived after I screamed for assistance, I directed them to put a rolled bandage and wrap it on while waiting for 911. I got the components from you individually, not as part of your IFAC. This isn't to get a free refill on my stuff. This is to know that me having a good kit and knowing how to use it undoubtedly saved my life. It will never happen to you until it does, and I'm forever grateful to you through the Father and His glorious Son for saving my life.
Chainsaw versus leg. Another one.
Another chainsaw versus leg. We need to start putting them in like.
I've had a few close calls of that myself. It's a scary moment. It's not,
Yeah.
not cool.
Because, I mean, the teeth on a chainsaw chain, they're made to not cut, they're made to literally remove material.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's not
They're like
a
little
clean
claws
cut.
like
Yeah,
this.
it's just constantly pulling.
But I have another one in here. Let me find it. I'm scrolling through all the lives saved. Life 72
Such a
chainsaw
cool list to have.
with a severed artery. Yep. Life number 50, Wolf chainsaw, 8 inches into his leg, TQ and airlift. There's a lot in here. Skid steer, crushed arm, explosion, lower left arm gone, prevented suicide, compound tid fib, grandma saved with a stomp bag, law enforcement officer chest seals on a perp, trainer kit, MVA, compound femur. Canadian life number 11 was a Canadian security officer that got stabbed because he noticed somebody taking a kid into the bathroom, and the kid looked like they were under duress, and then they were in there for a hot minute. So he goes in there, and suffice to say, in polite company, that kid was being hurt against their will. So he goes in there and attempts to arrest the guy, ends up getting stabbed right here, subclavian artery, boom, right here. And while he's in the process of subduing the perp, his partner comes in, and his partner had a bare fac and was able to pack the wound with hemostatic gauze, apply a pressure bandage, save his life.
Wow.
Life number 1 was David Campbell, the motor vehicle accident, compound femur. And I remember at the time, this was early on in my days on Patreon, I was still doing phone calls with people. And so he and we'd been having calls for a few months, and he calls me up out of the blue, and he sounded like he's all amped up, right? He's like, "Oh my God, Bear, I didn't talk to you." I'm like, "What's up?" He goes, "I just saved somebody's life." And I was like, "Okay, what happened?" And he tells me about it. I was like, "Dude, that's awesome." There's several in here that are redacted as well.
Yeah.
Life 33 is redacted. Life 44 is redacted. But anyway, chainsaw versus leg is a common thing that we see. So we are going to replace that guy's stuff. We should also talk about, if you're in an environment that has the golden hour, then tourniquets to limbs, 100% good to go. We want to do that. Tourniquets on extremities. We want to do tourniquets on extremities even if we don't have the golden hour
100%.
to treat massive hemorrhage right now until we can move the casualty. That's part of the E in SMRE, which is evacuate. Until we can get off the X, get away from the danger, then do a patient assessment. And if we can convert that tourniquet, we should convert that tourniquet. And it's an easy skill. It's basically wound packing without the imminent pressure of death. Because I've already stopped the bleeding. Now I'm going to pack that wound. I'm going to apply a pressure dressing to that wound. And the whole point of wound packing is not to fill the hole, the cavity from the wound with gauze so that the gauze soaks up blood and forms a clot. That's not how wound packing works. In fact, arterial clotting is not something that's very successful because your arteries are very large in diameter and they operate in high pressure. Your veins and your capillaries clot, and they clot well. That's why, if you get an injury on your hand or on your head, you apply some gauze, hold pressure, it'll stop bleeding. That's clotting factor. Arteries blow clots out of the wound because they're much larger diameter and they're under much higher pressure. It's the outward pulse of the heart pushing oxygenated blood out to your extremities. So we don't want to fill the wound with gauze, have the gauze soak up a bunch of blood and form a clot. We use the gauze to pinch the bleeding vessel, the leaking garden hose closed. So it's pressure packing. It's well aimed at direct pressure. So in a tourniquet conversion, once we've moved the casualty away from the point of injury, away from the X, they're at a casualty collection point, a CCP, or just somewhere where it's safe. That's all you need to understand from a civilian standpoint, is somewhere where it's safe. Then we assess the patient, and if it's going to be long, a long period of time, how long? Depends on whose literature you read. 2 hours to 4 hours to maybe even 6 hours.
Yeah.
Longest application of a tourniquet, Cat Gen 7 tourniquet, was 19 hours from Eastern Afghanistan to Grafenbeer, Germany. Guy had no permanent damage. That being said, all of T-Tri-C, T-Triple-C, which then becomes Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, which is where we get the March algorithm from, all that assumes air superiority. All that assumes we can move the patient. So in a civilian application where I've got a hospital definitive care an hour or less away, that's called the golden hour. And so we're going to throw tourniquets on stuff and we're good. If I don't have the golden hour, maybe I'm in a wilderness medicine setting, which is de facto anything that's an hour or more from definitive care. I want to tourniquet that extremity now to stop the massive hemorrhage, to stop the oh shit bleeding. Then I need to inspect the wound and go, all right, what am I going to do about this thing? I'm going to wound pack that wound using the gauze to pinch the bleeding vessel closed, applying a pressure bandage with a lot of pressure, a significant amount of pressure. But we're going to lose perfusion to the extremity. That's okay. I can't have this thing bleeding or the person's going to die.
Yeah.
Pack it, apply the wound bandage, or the pressure bandage rather. I'm going to put a second tourniquet on the extremity, not tight. I'm just going to put it there. That's my safety. And I'm going to come 1/2 a turn off of my tourniquet, and I'm going to visually observe the wound, and what I'm looking for is seeping blood. And as long as I don't have any blood seeping out, I'm going to continue to turn 1/2 turn on the windlass until I lose arterial constriction. I no longer have the garden hose pinched closed, brachial artery up here in the arm, femoral artery down here in the legs. Pinch those off. I'm going to open up the garden hose slowly, because now what's pinched off the hose is my gauze that's in the wound. And as long as I don't see any seeping, uncontrolled bleeding, I'm good. I've successfully converted from a tourniquet to wound packing and a pressure bandage. That's good. We want to do that. It limits, as part of what's called the lethal triad, which is acidosis, blood acidosis, which is beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about on a freaking YouTube video today.
Yeah. By far.
But all that to be said, if we want to put tourniquets on massive bleeding to the extremities, we don't want to overprescribe tourniquets for things that don't necessarily require them. It's a non-factor when we have the golden hour. If we tourniquet a paper cut, it's fine. It's fine. We're going to have, nothing bad will happen from this. You're going to go to the hospital. They're going to see you at triage. They're going to go, sir, madam, that's a paper cut. We don't need a tourniquet. We're going to go ahead and take that thing off.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the golden hour, if we don't have the golden hour, we de facto fall into what's called prolonged field care, which means I need to be able to take this tourniquet off at some point. But if I take the tourniquet off, the patient will bleed to death. So what do I do to keep them from bleeding to death? That's where we go to wound packing, well-aimed direct pressure with gauze, back to the pressure bandage. Then the tourniquet can come off, and I get perfusion to the remainder of that limb other than the wound site. So now we're supposed to be talking about ABC versus SMRE. We got a comment from somebody on a previous video we're all in?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And the comment was words to the effect of, why do you guys teach SMRE instead of ABC per the NAEMT? Which, if you don't know anything about pre-hospital medicine, is a bunch of acronyms that are nonsensical. Frankly, knowing stuff about pre-hospital medicine, they're still nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
So the NAEMT is the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. So these are your EMTs, your paramedics, flight medics, et cetera, et cetera. Pre-hospital medicine. Think ambulances and helicopters with medical professionals on them. Okay, that's what NAEMT, that's who they represent. That's who they offer licensing to. That's who they train, develop curriculums for. Got nothing against the NAEMT. But the NAEMT as an organization 20 years ago was teaching what's called ABC, which from a trauma setting, we can all remember very basic acronym. A, B, bone, C, coming out of the skin is bad. That's a joke. It's called a compound fracture. A bone coming out of the skin is bad. No, ABC is, see, my wife tells me all the time. She's like, you're too friggin' serious. You're too deadpan.
Yeah.
You joke with people and they don't even know that you're joking. I'm like, but baby, I know that I'm joking.
He does the same thing. His is so sarcastic. People are like, wait, are you serious? He's like, no.
It's an ENTJ trait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just how we roll.
I get a
It
lot
comes
of
off
joy
very
out of it.
a-holy.
Me too.
Like, that guy's an asshole. Like, no, that's actually just him being sarcastic and trying to be funny.
So, like, when I buy lunch and stuff, they're like, do you need your receipt? I was like, yes. I need to prove to the IRS that I bought these chicken tenders. And they're like, okay. Thanks. I'm like, no, I don't want that. You keep it. I don't want to touch that laser printed paper.
This is not a business expense.
We had
But,
another essential responder spot just go out this morning.
Praise ya.
Yeah, guys,
Really?
get your spots.
Yeah,
You
so
can't-
That
essential
means there's
responders.
one left?
No, that's wilderness.
Yeah, and there is
Wilderness,
only
there's-
one.
Oh,
left.
essential responder.
No, two left.
There's
yeah.
2 left for wilderness
Yeah.
responder, which is the end of this month here in Oklahoma. Essential responder is October 26th and 27th, and then we have a train-to-trainer coming up. T3 class is November 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's a 3-day class. But ABC, let's go back to ABCs. From the NAEMT, National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. ABCs is 20 years old. So when somebody tells me, when I hear, why aren't you teaching ABCs, that tells me your most recent block of instruction was 20 years ago. And ABC is airway, breathing, circulation. So much so that it is now CAB, circulation, airway, breathing. Circulation meaning blood, airway meaning the tubes in the front of your face, maxillofacial region, your nose and your mouth, down your airway, your trachea, to the top of your lungs where it splits off. It almost looks like a chicken's foot, comes down, splits off, and goes into the top of your lungs. So ABCs is a priority. We do make sure they have an airway first, then make sure they're breathing, and then make sure that we're controlling bleeding, aka circulation.
Yep.
The problem with that is if we're triaging our patient or patients, if they don't have blood inside of their body, if I haven't stopped the leaking blood, and the blood has 2 jobs for the purposes of our discussion this morning. One is to move body heat around the body to prevent hypothermia, or to mitigate hyperthermia, which is why you get flushed in the face, you get red, your skin turns red. That's increased blood flow through your capillaries to the surface of your skin for convective cooling and evaporative cooling. That's why you sweat, because you're a swamp cooler. When the sweat evaporates, a wet body loses body heat 28 times faster than a dry body. So as that sweat evaporates, I'm going to make my point here and then shut the hell up, because you've said 3 words thus far this
You're
morning.
doing great.
I apologize.
That's fantastic.
So your capillaries, right, will bring blood to the surface of the skin for convective cooling and evaporative cooling, or conductive cooling. If I'm laying on the concrete floor, that's going to cool me off. If I have hyperthermia, if I'm too hot. Hypothermia is when our body temperature drops below 98.6 nominal. Okay, so one job of the blood is to manage body heat. The other job of the blood is to carry oxygen towards organs, towards the brain, and remove CO2, carbon dioxide, from the organs, from the muscles, from the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, right? Adenosine triphosphate and all of that. So when we respirate, when we breathe in and out, when we breathe in, we're pulling oxygen-laden air in, and when we exhale, we're blowing out CO2. So it doesn't matter if I have an airway, if there's a way for air to get from the front of my face to the top of my lungs, And it doesn't matter if I'm breathing, respirating, if my diaphragm is moving and my lungs are relating or are inflating and deflating reliably. That doesn't matter if there's no blood to carry oxygen to my body and CO2 away from my body. And CPR, like what's the point of CPR? The goal of CPR is ROSC, return of spontaneous circulation. We want the heart to start beating again on its own. But if the body's leaking blood, which is what we call trauma medicine, trauma means critical bleeding, and I'm pumping on the heart, I'm pumping the blood out of the patient. 237 different studies have shown there's 0.0% efficacy of CPR in a trauma situation. So when we have critical bleeding, we're not 0.0. Okay, so when we have critical bleeding, we're not worried about CPR, we're not worried about ROSC. The point is, the primary concern becomes controlling the bleeding. The average person has how many liters of blood in their body, Heath?
About 5.
About 5. If we lose 50% of that blood, what happens to our level of consciousness?
Oh, well, basically you lose oxygen to the brain, you enter into irreversible hypovolemic shock, and you're out.
Am I upright or am I down?
Oh, you're down.
You're down, right.
Yeah.
So with a femoral bleed, femoral artery, unrestricted femoral artery, you can lose 50% of your blood volume in 2 minutes. Can you go longer than 2 minutes without breathing? Yes. It's about a 4-minute window from both a bleeding and a breathing standpoint. It's about 4 minutes. We got a 4-minute problem. But I will lose consciousness at 2 minutes from uncontrolled, unrestricted blood flow from the femoral arteries. And so I got to solve that problem first, either for myself or for the patient, before I'm concerned about breathing.
At which point your 4-minute problem is really now a 2-minute problem.
Exactly. And if we're talking T-TRI-C, on the DoD side, law enforcement side, I also have to deal with the problem that caused the bleeding and breathing issues in the first place.
Yep.
Establish and maintain fire superiority. Phase 1 care under fire phase of TCCC is return fire. The care management plan under care under fire begins with return fire. Put bullets on bad guys so that we don't have even more problems. And so this is why when we begin to train skill sets, it's why the benchmark standard for a tourniquet application to the arm, upper extremities, is 15 seconds. From out of your cool TQ pouch holder to on to tight to secure, 15 seconds. On the legs, it's 30 seconds, right? Under all conditions, in all positions, in the dark, covered in blood while it's raining, 15 on the upper body, 30 seconds on the lower body, because we have time problems. And so even NAEMT has changed ABC, airway, breathing, circulation, to CAB, CAB, circulation first, then airway, then breathing. Now let's compare that to SMRE. Where does SMRE come from? It comes from TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. The S is security. On the civilian side, we call it scene safety. What does that mean? Well, it means we got to deal with the problem that caused my physiological problems first. If cars are smashing into each other, I can't stay here, which gets into movement is life.
Yep.
If people are shooting at each other, I need to at least be behind cover where more bullets won't hit me or won't hit my casualty, or the care management plan for care under fire begins with return fire. Establish and maintain fire superiority. Make them put their heads down so we can take a hot zone into a warm zone. So we do scene safety on the civilian side or security on the DoD law enforcement side first, because we don't do medicine unless we have security, because March is medicine.
Yep.
And then the March algorithm is prioritized from 32,000 plus casualty studies through the Committee on TCCC, where they analyzed the causality of death in 30,000 plus studies. And what they found was that massive bleeding represented 90%
of all of those deaths. So that's why we start at massive bleeding. That's why NAEMT changed from ABC, airway, breathing, then circulation, to circulation first, then airway and breathing. So we start at M, massive bleeding, and we deal with that. Massive hemorrhage to the extremities, that means tourniquets. Massive hemorrhage to the junctional areas, that's going to be your neck, your shoulders, your pelvic girdle, your buttocks. Okay, that's where we do wound packing. Massive bleeding to the thorax in between your sternal notch here and your belt buckle. Pre-hospital, there's very little an all-service member type level is going to be able to do for that other than cover it up. And then we do airway. Do they have a tube from the front of their face to the top of their lungs? Yes. If no, then we add one. Whether that's supraglottic airway, surgical airway like a crike, or a nasopharyngeal airway, the old nose noodle. They don't have an airway, we get them an airway.
Yep.
And then we do respiratory. Do they have holes in their chest wall, in the thorax? And if so, how do I plug those holes? And then even that, there's debates on the efficacy of chest seals and vented versus non-vented. Do we just keep them open? No. For us, we're going to put chest seals. We put stickers on the holes in the box because that restores vacuum to the pleural space, which is where your lungs are. So when the diaphragm pulls down, the lungs will expand. When the diaphragm pushes up, the lungs will deflate, which is a restoration of reliable respiration. That's a lot of words. So that when the diaphragm moves, the lungs move so that you're bringing in oxygen and expelling CO2.
Yep.
Then we do circulation, head injury, hypothermia, expose, evaluate, evacuate, elevate. So all that's in priority of care in the SMRE algorithm. We do security first. We don't do medicine unless we have security. And then massive bleeding is 90%, and airway and respiratory, which I combine because it doesn't matter if they have an airway if they're not breathing. It doesn't matter if they're breathing if they don't have an airway. You got to have both of these things. That's 7% of all combat-related deaths during the global war on terror, which you might be thinking, well, I'm not in combat during the global war on terror. Why do I care? Because the Committee on TCCC, passes that information to the, drum roll please, National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians,
NAEMT.
the NAEMT, which is why NAEMT went from ABC to CAB, and which is why on the DOD and law enforcement side, we have Tactical Combat Casualty Care, TCCC, and on the civilian side and pre-hospital civilian medicine side, we have TECC, Tactical Emergency Casualty Care. Is that enough acronyms plus physiology for you? Does that explain that?
It makes perfect
Nope,
sense.
clear as mud. Clear as mud. What do you need to do? Keep the blood inside the body and make sure they can breathe.
Yep.
Then elevate. That's what you need to do, especially if you're within an hour of a hospital. Thoughts, Mr. Heath Hayes?
In short, none of that matters if you can't keep the blood in the body. That's just it. Keep the blood in the body.
Why use many words when few words do trick?
No, seriously, I mean, I wish I could say that was the first time we were asked that, you know.
It's the first time today.
First time today, right? But the truth of the matter is, people perish for lack of knowledge. You want to talk about like massive bleeding. Think about yourself as a civilian. The most dangerous thing that you're ever going to do is drive an automobile, whether it be a truck, a car, big, small, doesn't matter. It's dangerous. You're just desensitized to it. You've got enough experience behind the wheel that you've become desensitized to the danger that you're actually in. So, it was about 14 months ago, right out here just on the road, there was a car accident where this lady in a silver Honda Accord pulls out in front of an F-350 loaded down with his entire family, pulling a horse trailer with 4 horses in it.
Oof.
A lot of weight. He ends up T-boning her car straight into the driver's side. Naturally, you get hit in the driver's side of the vehicle, typically what happens is you're going to end up with either a broken femur or a broken left ankle,
Yep.
both on the left leg, right? You're driving. Well, that was not an open break. She ended up dying because of internal bleeding. So, yeah, she had the blood still on the inside of her body, but the femoral break caused a partial laceration on the femoral artery, and she ended up internally bleeding to death. That's a thing. So, again, massive bleeding, it's incredibly important. And if the blood is not able to be where it's supposed to be, you've got 4 minutes worth of blood in your body. You've got 2 minutes worth of blood, before you actually lose consciousness. You enter into what is called the early stages of, about a minute and a half, you end up in the early stages of hypovolemic shock. And then after about 2 minutes, you reach 2 minutes, or half of your blood has now been lost, and you're into irreversible stage of hypovolemic shock. And that's a coin toss, 50-50 shot as to whether or not you're going to come back from that. And that's in the best of conditions as well. So all things considered, we don't teach ABC for a reason, because keeping your blood in the body is the most paramount point of the entirety of everything we teach.
Have you ever seen, we talk about this in class. So I want you to think about the documentary Terminator 2. Okay? And in the documentary
Such
Terminator
a great
2,
documentary.
yeah, about the robots trying to destroy mankind, prophetic. They get Dyson, the engineer for Cyberdyne Systems. The kid's mom, crazy lady, she goes to his house and she's gonna murder him, but she can't. Of course, she has an assault rifle with a suppressor that she gets from some guy in the desert, right? And so she's gonna shoot him, but then she can't, and blah blah blah. And so they decide, instead of killing Dyson, they'll just go to Cyberdyne and blow up Cyberdyne. And so they're there, and there's a break-in, right? They break in, and they beep boop the buttons in the vault, and the chip and the arm come out of the wall, and then the kid's like, yeah, and he throws it in his backpack, and the cops start showing up, and then the Terminator kicks a desk out the window, takes a minigun, which, like, Hollywood, where's the battery source? And just starts spraying cars with the minigun, right? And somehow they have 40 barrels of RDX, and the fact that I just said the letters RDX in that sequence on the YouTube live stream means the ATF is going to show up here now. Like, but they just happen to have 40 barrels of it that they load down the offices with, and they got TNT on top of it. And but then here comes the SWAT team. And they got their gas masks and their MP5 SDs, and they come rolling in. They start peeling through the room, and they see Dyson, and he's holding a clacker, right, the triggering device for their explosives. And they just stitch him full of 9mm, 147 grain jacketed hollow points. And he does one of these, Hollywood, and he spins around, and he lands behind a desk, a sheet metal desk, which is concealment, not cover, because bullets will go right through it. But he lands behind the desk, and they start moving in on him, and he's breathing. All right, so that's indicative, that breathing, that respiratory rate is indicative of irreversible hypovolemic shock, because what the body is doing, the blood, which carries oxygen, he has a very low blood volume. At that point, at least 50% of his blood has been lost. And what he's saying, the reason he's breathing that fast is because what the autonomic nervous system is trying to do is increase the respiratory rate to get as much oxygen in as possible to hyperoxygenate the little bit of blood that's still inside of his body, okay, to keep him alive. However, he's got so many bullet holes through him, including in his chest, so he wouldn't have been breathing like that. This is Hollywood, right? He would have passed out at this point. But he goes into what's called agonal breathing. He goes, and he's like, I don't know how much longer I can hold this thing. And he's holding the clacker, right? And the SWAT guys are like, get out, get out, get out. And he passes out, drops the thing, click, boom. That's all Hollywood, but the breathing is perfect.
The only part of that entire unrealistic scenario.
It's a
that
documentary.
is real.
It's a documentary.
Is the breathing. The breathing was textbook.
Right, but at 50% blood loss, the idea that he would be conscious and be able to hold that clacker, that's all Hollywood. But that breathing from hyperrespiratory rate to agonal breathing to death, that's textbook perfect. This person's dying breathing. And all of that breathing is a result of blood loss. And so we deal with blood loss first, and then we worry about airway and respiratory, because the breathing don't matter if there's not any blood inside the body to move the oxygen anyway. We made good comments. Any people on Hero right now?
Sarah's here.
Sarah?
Sarah.
Sarah.
Striker Kate is in the house.
Oh, I know that guy.
Timmer.
Yeah.
We've got Everyday ERT. Texas Sheep Lady's here. Garen. James Atley. Rick Gates. HBD Off-Road. Who's that guy?
Oh, some dude.
Sawson.
Salson.
Pilgrim. Dano.
Salson went to class at Tallahassee, Florida. And Striker Cade was just on a Zoom call we did yesterday afternoon for Wilderness. Oh, spinning circle of death.
Of course.
Of course.
We're back.
Hey, we need to talk to DR about the internet here, because it's
Why is it terrible?
it's microwaved over from our HQ,
Yeah.
from there to here.
It's line of sight.
Yes.
Microwaving this place right now?
You
You're-
used the wrong words.
Your lack of understanding and how things work is so cute sometimes.
It's astounding.
You know,
Yes,
my
literally.
husband has- he doesn't say it's cute.
So you know your microwave at the house, how it has a metal box around it?
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
have one of those because they're the double.
Whatever you're into, sister. You know how hypothetically a microwave has a metal box
Yep.
around it?
Word.
Okay, what's the outside of this building made out of?
Metal.
Okay.
He's having a hard time getting through.
Okay, they hit the receiver dish, and the receiver dish goes, ooh, hot spicy air, and it converts that into an electrical signal, which then comes down a cable, which goes right over there to that router right there,
Oh, okay.
which is now cooking your brain inside the metal with Wi-Fi. That's how that works. Okay.
Brain is not being cooked.
But the spicy air gets shot from our other building over to this building via
It's like
microwave.
a really long jump.
No, it's not. That's what microwave's for.
Okay.
My dad did the first professional installation of microwave telecommunications from New York
How do
to
you think
Boston
cellular works?
in the early 1980s. Yeah.
Okay.
The exact same thing.
That's okay. Sarah said she also had the same question, Lauren. So, boom.
But spicy air or microwaves?
I don't know. Striker Kate said, my microwave makes me feel all warm and tingly when I put my face up to it.
That's why he has such a youthful appearance. Hey, we're getting a spinning circle of death over here.
And it keeps going back and forth from no data to error.
Well, that's the intranet for you. Let's see. Can y'all say, like, yeah, y'all are like doing this thing. I don't know why. I didn't change anything. It's because you started talking about the spicy air.
Domo arigato. Well,
Kill it.
Okay.
okay.
All right, everybody. This has been really fun. Bye.
RefugeMedical.com.
.com.
Okay, bye.